Hi there, thank you so much for joining me here today. In today's video, I'm going to give you two super valuable tips. If you are somebody who is feeling bored, frustrated, generally discontent with your career, but you really just have no idea what it is to do next. You don't know how to bring things together. You just don't know where to go from here. Before I get into the content of today's video, first I want to share that I have created a free guide on how to create a professional life you love. I'm going to put the link to that down below. And also, if you like this video, please share, subscribe, comments, or if you know somebody who you think this could really help them, please do share it. Thank you so much. So, if you're still watching this, chances are you are that person who is feeling bored and frustrated and you simply just don't know what to do next. And the longer we sit in this feeling of not knowing what to do next, the more frustrated, we can get. Maybe that's where you're at right now. It can get super frustrating. And it can almost start to feel like you're either never going to get it, or it's like it's out there somewhere. Like it's just, how do I find whatever it is out there? The truth of the matter is, when switching to something that you absolutely love, there's a process. There actually are things you can do. And this is the first tip I want to talk about, is actually understanding that there is a process to this. It isn't like we can, meditate on it or just think our way through it. Well, if I just think hard enough about this, I'll figure it out. Doesn't tend to work. It tends to keep you, honestly in that loop of indecision, not knowing what to do. So just rest assured, there is a process. There's things you can do. You don't have to sit there stuck. I'm going to share something that I do with clients. It's super effective. And if you've done any kind of personal development work, hopefully this will resonate with you. Figuring out what it is that you want to do next is a lot about recognizing the patterns in you, in your career, in your life overall. It's about pattern recognition. You actually have all the answers within you. The truth of the matter is you do. You have all the answers within you to be able to move forward. But it's actually having the ability to know, and to know actually how to withdraw that information. But a lot of this process actually does require that pattern recognition. So it's going back in your past, seeing what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy. But really importantly, super importantly, is why you didn't enjoy and why you did enjoy it. Because often we go for the surface level, the really obvious thing. But most of the time, in fact, if not all the time, there's something else underneath that. Everything we do in our life, there's a reason for it. Now, that doesn't mean there's a profound reason for it always, or it's hugely significant, but there always is a reason. From you sitting in front of the TV watching Netflix for an hour, to you exercising, to you staying stuck in your career, there's a reason for everything. And so the key is to be able to dig deep, first identify those patterns, and then dig deeper on those patterns and to have a full understanding of them. That's when you really shed light. The great thing about this is once you do, it's like this sense of relief, because you understand yourself. You understand why you've done things. It's really important. That's something as humans we don't recognize. Everything we do, there's a reason for it. Whether you're procrastinating or not doing stuff, or anything in your life, there's always a reason. The challenge with pattern recognition and the challenge with digging deeper on these things is it's harder to see our own stuff. It's harder to see our own patterns. It's harder to see everything that we do, because when we do things, we tell ourselves a story too. And that's what really blinds us. We tell ourselves a story about why we're doing it and what's really going on. But the truth of the matter is, that's just your perspective, right? And somebody could have a very different perspective. And in fact, they do have a very different perspective on your circumstances. And that's why it's really hard sometimes to see our own patterns. So if you're sitting in isolation trying to figure out on your own, I would highly recommend reaching out to somebody who can be objective and can help you in this process, because it is really challenging. Somebody recently said to me, and they gave me this beautiful analogy, that it's like being inside of a jar. Like say you go to a store and you buy, I don't know, a jar of pasta sauce or something, and you've cleaned that jar. It's like being inside of that jar and reading the outside label to see what ingredients are in it. It's really hard to do. I mean, you might be able to get there, be very, very clever, but it is so much easier if you just had somebody on the outside of that jar reading it for you, right? So that's one of the biggest challenges, is actually just sitting in your own space and finding your own way there. I know in my journey, I tend to be quite independent. I can be a little stubborn about that, in fact, at times. It really did take somebody else showing me and helping me see the patterns in my life to give me the tools and the awareness to be able to move forward. So that's the first tip I want to give you, is just be aware there's a process, and a lot of it involves patterns, and really, truthfully, all the answers are within you. Second thing, and this is so, so important, I cannot stress this enough, is finding a career that you love, that you feel like is in alignment, where you're having an impact, where you're feeling passion, you're feeling excited, you're feeling energized. To be able to figure out what that is, you cannot just look at your career. Cannot. We have been conditioned and programmed to think that, okay, here's our life over here. Okay, this is all our life. It's our personal life, our relationship, our home life, our family, friends. It's all over here, and this is how we make money. And it's just this alternate reality almost. It's like, it's just what I do over here, and this is not supposed to really blend to over here. And that's not actually how it goes. The reason why so many people are unhappy right now, we see evidence of this everywhere in the last 18 months to 2 years. The reason why so many people are unhappy is because there is this disconnect. We're the same person. We're the same person whether we show up at home in our personal life as we are at work. We are the exact same person. Now, we show different parts of ourselves. We utilize different parts of ourselves. But that's in any area of our life. We're different in our personal, intimate relationships than we are with neighbors. I mean, that's just standard. We show different parts of ourselves, but we're still the same person. And if you think about, where you live, that's part of who you are. You chose that for a reason. Same with your work. We can't just go on pretending that we become this separate person. I mean, I think about even just the clothes that we wear. If you've been in the corporate world, I mean, there's a certain attire that you're supposed to wear, and you may hate it. You may actually hate it, but we're supposed to do this, right? To be seen as professional. So it's like we have to become this separate person all the time. And that's the reason why so many people are unhappy. So first of all, understand that is the basis of a lot of unhappiness, is just this huge separation that we create between who we are and our career. So what does that mean? That means that when you are looking at yourself, looking at your life, and looking at everything, including the patterns that I talked about in the first tip, you can't just look at your career. You can't just look at your career looking at the patterns, the things you've done, where you've felt really good, where you have felt really aligned, and where you really didn't like it, and where your skills are, where your experience is. You can't just look at your professional life. And this is one of the biggest shifts I see in people when I work with them. Because it's funny, I'll find this, is I'll start working with somebody and I'll say this, and it's almost like it doesn't sink in that this is part of the process. So when we start talking about things, they'll only talk about work. And then till we start moving along further and we dig a little bit deeper, okay, you've got to bring in your whole personal life. Because what I have absolutely discovered in situations, when we pick a career that is in alignment, and working with people, I'm trying to say this really carefully here because it's really super, super important. When somebody finds what they really want to be doing and what lights them up, there are pieces of their personal life that come into play. So I'm going to give you the example of myself, okay? So I used to be a CPA, so a certified professional accountant in the corporate world and management, climbing that corporate ladder, right? And here I am a coach. You might be thinking, like, wow, that's really different, right? But in my free time, in my spare time, I devoured personal development. I wanted to learn, how does our brain work? Like, how do we make decisions and why do we have these things in life? I mean, I have gone down every rabbit hole of any path I could, energy work, spirituality, NLP, brain science, just everything. I did this in my free time, like just on my own. So to then pick a career where I completely ignored that, well, I just don't think I would have been happy. I really don't believe any part of me would have said that wasn't part of my path. That was 100% part of my path. That was part of my journey that I had to pull into my career. If I count how many hours I have spent in personal development and learning about, like I said, the human mind, taking courses, taking programs, it is probably surpassing some of the skills that I learned while in accounting. Like, full stop. When I was an accountant. Like, I would love to actually know how many hours I spent doing this. So this is how this is with everyone I work with. This is the way it goes. We can't just act like our career is just our career and our personal life are separate. And there is a resistance to doing this in our culture because we haven't enjoyed our careers. And that's part of the problem. We think, well, we don't want to mix them because then I'm bringing that crap into my personal life. I don't want to. The difference is when you enjoy it, you want to incorporate it. You actually do. You're like, this is what lights me up. This gets me excited. I talk about this stuff, to people I meet anywhere because I love it. It's part of who I am. It's not this separate existence. So when looking back, when you're collecting data, I call this a data collection. When you start looking at patterns, it's really just collecting data, When you go back and you start collecting data, don't just look at your career. You have to look at your personal life as well, because I can guarantee there are parts of your personal life that you need to bring in to your career. There just is. And when you start to see it all line up, it will all make sense. It's like things just line up. It's like a puzzle. And you start putting those pieces in, all of a sudden the picture starts to form. You're like, oh, I'm seeing the picture now. I'm seeing why I did this over here, and this decision over here. It all starts to fit together, and it's a beautiful tapestry, and it's a really cool process. So I just want to really encourage you to be open to saying, okay, what about my whole life? What about my whole life, my whole existence, and who I am I needing to bring into the next chapter of my career? So just a quick recap, the 2 tips in this video on how to create a career you love is really be willing and open to look at the patterns in all areas of your life and learn from them. Go deeper. Second tip is don't just look at your career, look at your entire life. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, again, please like, share, and subscribe. And as a reminder, I am going to put that link to that guide down below. Also, I have an email where I share great content a couple times a week for more tips and things you can think about as you're looking at making a career shift. I'm going to put the link to my website, which is where you can subscribe to that email, also down below. And I will talk to you soon.